Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Underrated Movies. I'm your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. And today, this might be a short video. It just kind of depends. Where I'm going to talk about briefly my top 10 movies of 2024, which I will mention in reverse order, starting from 10 to 1. And, it'd be interesting. I might make up for last year or the year before that because I know I didn't make a video for that one. But anyway, without further ado, my number 10 film of 2024 would be Rebel Ridge. It's a crime action thriller which feels like a throwback and a homage to the First Blood film, which this one stars Aaron, I think Perry, I think his name is. I think was it a British actor who actually looks like Mufasa. Actually, not Mufasa. Scar. He actually does look like Scar. But anyway, this movie is badass. It's a about a ex-marine who specializes in a particular martial arts who uh, comes across a town where he's trying to bail bond his cousin. Pulled aside and technically robbed by police officers. Who the head is a crooked police sheriff played by Don Johnson, and they pretty much scam people out of their money and do quite a bit of shady stuff. Which what I really liked about this film that's very layered when it comes to story and in with characters. Um, this film feels a throwback to like serious action thrillers that I feel like they don't really make anymore. And if they do, it's a rarity. And what I really enjoyed out of this is from an angle of an ex-Marine who kind of similar to First Blood, where he would try to apprehend the bad guys by not killing them. And then you see in very unique ways of how he's able to pull it off. And I love the level of mystery to it. Jeremy Slaughter, who's actually one of my favorite filmmakers currently working today, has really crafted a very suspenseful crime film that I think will and it should um, garner actually has garnered a lot of attention, but particularly with the main actor. Uh, I do believe the hype for the film died very quickly once it premiered, but this film I just could not stop thinking about it. This film was phenomenal, and I highly recommend it for anybody who hasn't seen it, especially if you're looking for a very stoic one against a thousand kind of army action film that I can tell you you won't regret missing. My number 9 film that went to theaters and kind of went under the radar, especially if you're not if you're not open to it. This is a weird film. Kinds of Kindness, Yorgo Lanthimos' anthology dark comedy film that has three, and they're kind of interconnected in a way where you kind of have to go in where it centers on three characters played by the same actors in different roles. Very fascinating. And yeah, this film does offer some bizarre and unsettling behavior, which I wouldn't necessarily say you would call it a horror film, which is not. It's a comedy. But the behaviors, how these characters act, does feel horror-ish in a way where I could see it could turn a lot of people off. You got the first story that deals with this employee who works for a very powerful man who orders him to do whatever he wants. And when he is given a certain task to murder somebody, he is afraid to do it. And you see his life kind of crumble apart until he decides to do it. And you see how this guy's life is predetermined by this one employer, which is fascinating and weird. Which Jesse Plemons, who stars in the film also along with Emma Stone, won the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival. Yes, and my apologies, I am fighting a little cold. You have the second story deals with um this police officer played by Jesse Plemons, who is grief stricken to find that his wife has come back from vacation unharmed, but believes that is not his wife. And this story is unusual because the film is very ambiguous, and I'm saying for all three shorts, because you're not really clued in onto like any sort of plot details as to what is happening. You're kind of taking it along the ride, and you're taking it as for what you see into the film. So things happen where there is no explanation, and it gets weirder and weirder and funny, but weirder at the same time. Where I think it's more weird and uncomfortable than funny, and it has a weird symbolic. I wouldn't say symbolic, but somewhat weird reference with dogs. And the film, at least to me, is not too clear, or at least maybe I just haven't picked up on it. Where Emma Stone, when she returns, who plays his wife in the second story, does whatever he wants, but in a weird way of like Jesse testing her to kind of see if that's really his wife or not. I won't spoil too much of it, but it does end darkly and weirdly in a hopeful way. And then you got the third story that deals with these cult members trying to find this being who could bring people back from the dead. That one's interesting, and it does go into some very weird places. This movie is weird and it's not going to be for everybody, but this one definitely hit one of my top 10 movies of its originality. Another original film that not a lot of people saw, and I can tell you it will be off putting. And Sunset is Sasquatch Sunset. It's a dark comedy adventure of a family of Sasquatch that travels to home, but things just get difficult along the way. And this is a very dialogueless film with a lot of intimate humor and bathroom humor that goes a long way. And the movie is kind of shy around like 90 minutes, I think, and then it does end very, I guess you could say, ambiguous, but in a very funny way. And I really like the song that uh one of the actresses that played in the film. I love that song. That song is very beautiful. Um, Number seven is Deadpool and Wolverine. I had a great time with this film, despite some of the plot elements that just didn't really capture my attention very well. But I just love the interaction between the characters of Logan and then Deadpool, and it's a fun film. It's a very fun film. I had a great time, especially seeing um, the characters and then where it was going. Number six. This is actually my favorite action film of last year. Is Civil War, A24's action dystopia thriller of what would happen if the U.S. collapsed. Uh, in a certain specific way, if certain beliefs kind of just divided and the country split in half, and then you kind of have this war going on. Where I'm glad they didn't focus on a perspective on either side, but from a perspective of a journalist, which I could see the. Well, I don't have any expertise in anything about journalism, but um, I will say maybe it seems outdated. You have journalists using cameras and taking pictures of it, but what do I know? I'm not a journalist. The action scenes are thrilling and they are loud and they are impressive. And for a budget of, from what I'm understanding, is A24's highest budget film so far. And to see what they were able to pull off was outstanding. And I really, 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 really enjoy this film. And I love the action scenes. I love how uncomfortable and intimidating these action scenes were. And this was a phenomenal piece of work. And it's definitely on number six. Number five is Love's Lies Bleeding, another A24 film that I believe was it's probably one of the most original films to come out of last year and a very unpredictable one. It came out early, I think back in March. And I think the big standout of this movie is I forget her name. What's her name? Or Kate. Uh, she played the opposite of Kristen Stewart. She was great and phenomenal in this film. There are some little hiccups where you don't understand exactly why certain things are happening, especially to her character, but it's fascinating and it's unpredictable and intense as hell. Ed Harris plays a very intimidating villain, and I think this is a crime film that got slept on, that should have gotten more attention. And I can tell you, this was a thrill ride. Maybe a little bit too much sex for my taste, but other than that, this was a phenomenal piece of work. Number four, probably one of the guilty pleasures of this year. And I had a great time with the film, and I actually believe it's a crime for not releasing it in theaters. I believe the film would have done well. Is Beverly Hills Cop Axel? I had a great time with this film. This film was fun. It's nice to see um, Eddie Murphy back into this role after so many years. And to be honest with you, I like the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. I wasn't really into it as much grown up, but I can tell you, I really do enjoy Eddie Murphy into this role. I think the best film, the best version, I think the best one is the first one, but it's been years since I watched them. But I can tell you, I had a great time with this fourth film. Axel, Eddie Murphy, close to his 60s, or delivers great physicality, and I just had a great time with it. It's nice to see some of the old cast from the original movies back in, and I can tell you, especially if you're just looking for a fun action movie, this is one that should not be missed. Number three is The Substance, probably the best horror film of last year, and I love the commentary of the theme of how far would someone go of trying to be perfect and beautiful in the Hollywood industry, and you see the damage and the insanity it drives someone to try to be that, um, especially if popularity is deemed on looks and presentation of what would happen if all that goes out the window, because something like that, especially in that career, is temporary, and you kind of don't know where it's going. And I love that the film is a somewhat of a consequential horror film situation where a character makes a choice and you see the you see the outcome of that choice, and it goes further, further, further down into a very bad place, kind of similar to like The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly. And I'll be honest with you, as much as what other critics are saying about this film of how disgusting this film is, yeah, but I've seen pretty disgusting stuff than that. So yeah, but still great. And congratulations on Demi Moore on her Golden Globes win. And I do hope that she wins for Best Actress at the Oscars. Number two is Dune Part Two. This film was phenomenal. Great, epic on top scale. I had a great time. I actually saw this film at the Fox Theater, um, downtown LA, and it was my first time there. And I had a great experience seeing that for the first time in that theater. To be honest, I think this is a near perfect film. I love the black and white sequence on when they're on under the planet. Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scene, a beautiful sequence. Um, and I am looking forward to see the third film. I have no issues with this film whatsoever. Still believe Sicario is my favorite Denis Villeneuve film, but I loved this film, and it was my number one for a while until I saw my number one pick of this year, of last year, 2024. Man, another A24 film that just mesmerized me from start to finish. And the more I was thinking about it, and when I saw this film, the more I think I just had to allow this film to be my number one pick. A Different Man, which earned another Golden Globe winner, Sebastian Stan, his award. His award, excuse me. And I can tell you this film is fascinating and you don't know where it's going to go. And it's fascinating of how kind of similar to the substance of how we built our self-esteem around looks, how we look, and how we allow that to dictate our happiness. And it's not about the outside, it's about the inside that counts. And sometimes when you look at yourself in the mirror and really try to deep down within the inside, and it's something to where you don't like of what you of what's inside. Um, and I love how the main character when he goes through his transformation to a better looking appearance, and then he meets somebody who has the same disability as he did. Well, yeah, as he did, but is able to love himself. You see the um, paranoia and then anxiety or that the main character goes through when he couldn't figure out like how come I couldn't love myself, but this man is able to do so. You see the jealousy and the behind it, and he feels like everything that he's made progress was a waste of time. And it's fascinating to kind of see that. Where I could kind of see a different man in the substance as companion to each other because they kind of, in a way, express the same thing. And and I love that opening theme song of Different Man. Like it's so great. I just and I'm glad that this film won Best Picture at the Independent Film Awards. Man, this was a great year for movies. A24. I got one, two, three A24 films on my list. One, two, yeah, three. I got one movie, two Netflix, one, actually, well, two Disney because Searchlight Pictures is owned by Disney. And yeah, man, this was a fascinating, great year for movies, and I'm looking forward to 2025, and hopefully, uh, well, at least for my taste, I mean, I'm still into the mainstream movies. I think my number one film that I think I'm looking forward to, and I got to be honest, I'm not looking forward to too many movies this year, except for the lower budget movies, is Avatar. Because the production behind that James Cameron's already been making the movies for back to back for quite some time is fascinating. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and maybe Captain America. We'll see. Um, we'll see how that turns out. But that is my list for 2024. Comment section below if you agree or if you've seen these movies and what you thought about them. Let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.